Hey, welcome to the shop. This week, I'm getting my Sportster back on the road. But first, I have a few things to finish up. Off camera, earlier this week, I repaired the threads on my front wheel and I put the shims behind the brake pads that I forgot to put in when I did that install. So all that's ready to go. I finally got a chain tool, so I did decide to remove one link from my chain, and I swapped out the clip style master link that I had and used the rivet master link that came with my chain. The last part that I was waiting for is here. It's a death roller from Sporty Mob. It's a chain roller to keep the chain from rubbing on the rear brake linkage. The rear shocks are basically finger tight right now, so I need to get some thread locker on them and torque them to spec. I finally picked up some primary fluid, so I need to get that topped off to the right level. And I picked up a chain slack tool from BPA Racing, which is just something I thought was interesting and I wanted to try out. Let's get to work so I can finally ride this bike. This is the chain roller that I got from Sporty Mob. I thought about building one myself out of a skateboard wheel and some parts from the hardware store, but by the time I bought skateboard wheels and bearings, it would have been more expensive than the 65 bucks this cost. This chain roller does take out some slack in your chain when your suspension's at full droop, which is really nice because the longer your rear shocks are, the more slack you have to have in your chain. There's no one size fits all chain tension measurement for a Sportster when you start changing the ride height. Want to know how tight your chain should be on your bike? Take your rear shocks off your bike, adjust the height of your suspension until your rear axle, your swing arm pivot, and your front sprocket bolt are all in a perfect straight line with each other. That is where your suspension makes your chain the tightest, so you can take the slack out at that height, and you can't run it any tighter than that. If you run it too tight, as your suspension gets to that point in the travel, the chain will get so tight that it will stop your shocks from absorbing bumps. It'll wear out your chain, it'll wear out your sprockets. Pick up your rear wheel without the shocks on, and make sure your suspension isn't bound by your chain. With all three of those points in a line, I got my chain set to where it's pretty snug, but I know I'm not stretching it if I can lift the wheel with my bare hands. Luckily, after I removed a link from the chain, I had just enough room to slam the axle forward, and you can see I don't have any adjustment left on this nut. But I like how my chain tension is, and it'll only stretch from there. When you've got your chain how you want it, take a measurement of your slack, and then you've got your own custom setting you can use from there forward. I wanted to try something different on this bike with a slider on the top and a roller on the bottom. Makes it a lot harder to get a good slack measurement. So I got something that I think is going to make it a lot easier. This slack adjuster tool seems like a pretty good idea to me. You just get this dial zeroed out when you've got your chain how you want it to be. And then every time you throw it on, it just shows you real quick how much your chain's gotten loose. I put a little line on it with a paint pen just so that if that dial ever moves on me, I'll be able to see it real easy. When I'm making adjustments to my chain from now on, I'll be able to take a quick look at that and know if my chain's tight enough instead of having to do an adjustment and measure over and over again until I get it right. But I'll let you guys know how I feel about it after I use it for a while. One last thing I want to do, I'm going to use a sandwich bag to rig up a sketchy little registration pocket in my saddlebags. It's ghetto, but it'll work, and nobody can see it. Bike's rideable again, but it is not a nice day. So I'm gonna try and sneak out between rain clouds for a minute. Well, I pulled the bike out and the front brakes were dragging a little bit. So I figured I'd try and ride it around the block anyways. Got about halfway around the block, brakes heated up, started dragging real bad, and hit a little bit of gravel and washed the front end of the bike out. So already tested my crash protection and it's working great. I was barely moving, bit of a bummer. By the time I went the rest of the way around the block back to the house, the front tire was leaving a skid mark. So I took the front brakes apart. The only way that I could get them to stop dragging is to remove the little heat insulation layer on the back of one of the brake pads. Seems to be doing good now, but now it's raining. I'm gonna try and get the bike out if it dries up before I gotta get this video edited. So I'm either gonna ride tomorrow morning or that's it for this week. Well, early May in Idaho. Got like 4 inches of snow last night, so it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to ride this morning. Hope you guys liked the video. Drop a comment down below and subscribe to the channel. See you next week. Thanks for watching.